Welcome to the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland. In this video, you will learn how to input content model data into the iCAT platform. You will see an experienced user of iCAT teach a new user how to complete a content model proposal for acute myocardial infarction. An important thing to remember when completing your example is that you may not need to complete every parameter of the content model, only those which specifically apply.
All right, Sean, we're going to look at actually entering into the iCAT platform the proposal that you have for the acute myocardial infarction. The iCAT platform, the address is the iCAT.stanford.edu, and your first screen comes up with the sign in. So it's a simple matter of typing in your username and password. And what iCAT will then do is bring us up to an introduction screen. Now on this introduction screen, we have the welcome. An important icon is the question mark. So this will allow you to submit a question on the iCAT user Google group. So if there is any issues that you have a problem with, then you just click on here, submit your question, and you'll get a response. Along the left-hand side here, you'll see there's a number of tabs, and these are the various working tabs that we use within the platform. Because we're going to be entering into the content model, the tab we need to access is the one that says ICD content. So we're going to click on this tab, and our screen will change. The iCAT is a fairly big platform. There's a lot of information in it. So you will at some stages just need to take your time, allow it to turn over, not get impatient with it, or you potentially can freeze the screens. Now we have two sides. On our left-hand side, this is our ICD categories. And you'll see that here we have a hierarchy. Now within this hierarchy are all the ICD-10 codes that were uplifted to form the basis for the platform, and this is what we'll be working on today. You'll notice on the left-hand side of each line is a little plus symbol. Clicking on this allows you to scroll down through the various subcategories for each of the ICD-10 codes, and depending to what degree, in other words how many children a parent may have, we can just keep clicking until we get down. For example, here we're down to 4 characters. Before we start completing, just to give you an idea of what you find on the right-hand side, we have all the various tabs, and these are the tabs that relate to the different parameters. We have various icons. When you go over an icon, a message will come up to tell you exactly what that icon is. So that will give you some information. Within the various fields, we have a question mark, and this is our help. So if you don't remember or you're not sure what should go into that particular field, just click on the help icon and an alternative page will come up, and it will give you information as to what exactly is required in that field. So our example that we're using today is the acute myocardial infarction. Now there are 2 ways to find the position within the iCAT. One is to go through the tree hierarchy if you know the ICD-10 code. If you don't know the code, we have a search function up here. So all we need to do here is click on the field and type in the description that we want. So we have an acute myocardial infarction. Press your enter key and the system's now searching. Once it's finished its search, we have a box come up that will list everywhere that terminology has been found within the iCAT platform. You'll notice that some of them are related to other conditions. We are looking at one specific ICD entity here, and that is acute myocardial infarction, which was the I-21. We can scroll down and we have I-21 acute myocardial infarction. Once you find the one that you need, you click on it, which will highlight it and select in the tree. Now, this side of the screen is now going to go searching for you, and you'll see that it's started to expand. We can close this box. We have highlighted acute myocardial infarction. Once you highlight an entity on the left-hand side of the screen, the right-hand side produces all the information and the appropriate fields that you're going to need to complete. So we're at our acute myocardial infarction. So looking at our proposal as to what information needs to be put into the content model, the first thing that we have got is that the ICD entity title, the request has been that it would like to be known as myocardial infarction. So what we need to do is change this title. Now, we spoke about before that to do this, you can click in the field. We want to remove the word acute, so we can highlight this, delete, and we're left with myocardial infarction. We then need to click outside the field. Once we've clicked outside the field, we get a message box up. Now, this is asking us whether or not we are changing the title's meaning. Now, in this case, we are slightly, but we're not changing it totally. So we can actually say yes to it, that it does preserve the old meaning. And when we click on the yes, we will get what we call a comment box come up. And here is where we need to comment or make a note as to why you wanted to change the title. The decision that's been made by the group is that they propose to change the name from acute myocardial infarction to myocardial infarction because there may be other children that are in fact subacute or a long time sequelae. So what we will do is we type this in.
We propose to change the name acute because there may be other children that are trying to find.
So once you've completed your message, your explanation in this case, you click on send, and that will now be attached to this code title so that anyone else that is coming and looking at the iCAT can see why the change in title has been requested.
Okay.
So this was basically our first parameter, and that was the ICD entity title. Remember, we talked about type and referred to the reference manual where each of the entities needs to be given a type. So disease, disorder, or syndrome, injuries. So under our tab of classification properties, it brings up these fields. So here's our field for type. In the proposal for the myocardial infarction, has a type been specified?
Absolutely. Disease.
All right, so what we will need to do is just click on the disease icon, and that's now highlighted.
Okay.
With the second box, the second field, this is our linearization. So this allows the particular entity to be used in various forms of the classification. So it might be the morbidity, mortality, it could be used for research. So with our myocardial infarction, which of the linearizations has been selected as appropriate for the myocardial infarction?
Okay. Morbidity, of course, applies, so it's already clicked. Mortality would apply as well. So click that box.
Yeah, and it just will take a little time to turn over. So once you've clicked, give it some time to record it. Remember.
All right, and then primary care would apply as well too. And then research would also apply.
Okay. Well done.
No problem.
So for our third parameter, this was to deal with the textual definition. Now, textual definitions are found under the tab, title and definition. So when we click on this tab, this is familiar. This is where we had our myocardial infarction titles and codes, and we have our short definitions and our detailed definitions. With the particular fields here, you'll see that we have the ability to add a new value. And when you highlight here and click on them, you will get a text box. And within that text box, you will type your definition, or you can also copy and paste from any Word document.
Okay.
So if you would like to type a definition that we can put in here for the detailed definition,
Okay.
we've got add new value.
Give it a moment.
Give it a moment. Now, once the box comes up, you can click into this box and then submit your free text.
Submitting the definition. Okay.
Okay, so once you've completed, always double check for spelling errors.
Okay.
And then once you're satisfied that that is what you want for your definition, then you will click outside the field and your work will be saved. And it highlights in blue to show you that it has been accepted.
Okay.
Our fourth parameter that we are going to look at is those dealing with terms. So you can have a go. There'll be a tab that will relate to terms. So find that at the top of your page.
Okay.
Now once again, we have a number of fields. We have the icon, the little green plus that says add new value. So this is to indicate to you that you will be the one adding the value. So it's free typing or paste from your Word documents. Now you'll see that sometimes when you go into the content model, there may be some pre-filled fields. They may have been uploaded from ICD-10, or they may be suggestions from other people that are interested in this particular ICD entity. So what we will do here is enter some of the terms that you have listed in your content model that are appropriate for the acute myocardial infarction. The ST elevations, which is in your content model, when we go to look, it's actually already been entered for us.
Okay.
If we had a synonym, so for example, heart attack might be a synonym that is to be entered, then we can practice here by adding that into the synonym field.
Okay.
So it's exactly like the previous screen. You've clicked on your value, a field has opened up, and you can free text type into it. So you can just type in heart attack. And remember to click outside the field, and this saves the work. The enter button will not save work.
Okay.
So if you like to go to that clinical description tab, these are the parameters that deal with the body system, the body part, and the histopathology. Now when you look here, you'll see that there's a new icon that's appeared which has the title of Find Term. Now these ones are linked to a bioportal which has a listing of clinical terms from different sources. So the body system, for example, is connected to an ICD list. The body parts is actually connected to the SNOMED clinical terminologies. So what we need to do for these is to see whether or not there is already an existing term. So we might start with the body system, and for your myocardial infarction, what body system is going to be the appropriate one?
It would be our cardiovascular system.
Exactly. So what we need to do here is click on the Find Term. You will see here that we get a bioportal search box come up. Sometimes if somebody else has been on the system, it may bring up some information, but for you, you need to look in the search for the concept. In this instance, it is the cardiovascular. So we will type in cardiovascular. And in this instance, you just get to press enter,
Okay.
and it goes and searches. Now, to import it, there's an import button. And when you click on this, the system will automatically enter it into the field, and you'll actually see it appear on the side. So if I click import here, and now it's appeared. So we can close the box down if you've finished importing, but if you had other things that you needed to check on, you might want to keep the box open and continue searching. So we close this down, and now we have cardiovascular system, which is also known as the circulatory system, and we have the link with the bioportal. And exactly the same method is used for our body parts. We have already got a pre-fill here for the myocardium, which meets what was in your content model for myocardium. And if there was any histopathology, then we could go through exactly the same process here and put the relevant descriptions in.
Okay.
So the next parameter that we will look at is to do with temporal properties. So can you find a tab for temporal properties?
Tab is currently under construction.
So this will soon be up and working for us, but at the moment we have a situation here where we still have a field that we can complete. Temporal properties is to do with the time and the durations. Do you have any temporal properties that are related to your myocardial infarction?
None, but the missing term acute should be reported.
Okay, so we actually do have acute, which has been put in here.
Okay.
But I will take you through it at this point just to show exactly how we handle a term that there is no ID for. So we once again click on our find term. It's gone into our bioportal search. So when we type in acute, we actually do have a term. So we can select acute, exactly the same procedure as we did before.
Import it into the data.
Import it in. Here it comes. So we can now close this. So once again we have a tab. So if you click on that tab, and we'll see what comes up. Now there's quite a lot of information here. So always check any notes because they will provide you with further information. Now in the case of our myocardial infarction, has the content model that you've devised come up with any severity properties?
Yes, elevation.
Okay, so once again we have down here a field, the severity levels, descriptions. It's an add new value. Now, we've encountered add new value before, so what does that tell you you're going to need to do?
Just click on the add new value tab.
Correct.
Next to the green plus sign. A field will come up in the box. Then you're able to free enter text, or you can copy and paste.
Correct.
All right. All in one. ST elevation. Click outside the box.
Correct. Now, if you have more than one criteria or more than one thing that you wish to list, you can repeat the whole process and just keep adding for as many as you need to. Parameter number 8 is dealing with the manifestation properties. So once again, have a look at your tabs and see whether or not there is one relevant for you.
Yes.
And here's where, if you remember, we do signs and symptoms and the investigation and findings. So we have a find term and we have an add term for both of these particular fields. So we will always go to the find term first, and this is the one that accesses the bioportals. So with our infarction, did you have some manifestation properties?
Absolutely. Sudden chest pain, shortness of breath, nausea or vomiting, palpitations, sweating, anxiety,
Okay.
things of this nature.
So these would be signs and symptoms that would help to define what a myocardial infarction is. So what you would need to do now is to go through your find term, access the bioportals, and see if you can find each of these particular signs and symptoms.
Okay. We can start with sudden chest pain.
Yes?
See what comes up. Okay.
We have quite a number of choices that have come up from chest pain, and down here will tell us exactly how many. So there's actually 62 results for chest pain,
Okay.
and you can scroll through them, and you'll see that there's a central, a cardiac, chest pain at rest. So we might show all the search results and see whether or not there is one for sudden chest pain. So just a matter of scrolling down, you'll notice that it is in alphabetical order, and then it changes when it becomes a synonym, and we don't have one. Okay.
Okay.
So we go back up. Chest pain here, there's actually two of them. So when you have a situation where there are two terms, what you need to do is have a look here and see where it was found. Now there is mention of in preferred term or in synonym. Now remember, a synonym is an alternative way of saying something. So for our particular sign or symptom, we want the preferred term. We want exactly what will be said. So when you have a choice, like in this situation, always default to the preferred term. So we can import this one, and you can see that it has popped up on the screen. Now because you have a list that you want to go through, we're not going to close the box. What you can now do is go back to your search for concept and do the next one. So have a go for shortness of breath.
All right, shortness. See what comes up. Okay.
All right, now here we've got some different words come up. So we have dyspnea, which is actually the medical term for shortness of breath. So we will have a look through, and across here you've got match content, so it's telling you that it's the same. We have a couple of choices here. There is no shortness of breath, so we know that this is the one that's going to be our first choice. So we will just go with the one at the top.
When there is no in preferred term, it's go with the top
first
choice?
One. Yes. So we'll do the import again, and the process will repeat. And so now we will have two terms under our signs and symptoms. So we might just do one more, and that will be, say we do palpitations.
Okay. Palpitations. Okay. So here we have the preferred term for palpitations. So we'll just click on that and then import it into the box.
Perfect.
Correct.
All right, and you can see that your field is changing. So once again, back to our tabs, and we have one for causal properties. So when we click on this, there's quite a number of properties that will be entered here: the etiology, the agents, mechanisms, genomic linkage. Now you'll see that with the etiology type, we've actually got a drop-down menu. So with the drop-down menu, we have a pre-list of which you can select what is the etiology type of a myocardial infarction. So within your content model, what has the decision been?
It's an ischemic disease.
Okay, so what we would do is click on the ischemia, so just up there. Okay, and then click outside the box again. Correct. Do you have any agents?
Causal mechanisms, infarct.
All right, so here it's actually been pre-filled for us.
Okay.
But you will notice as soon as you see the bioportal icon, we went through the find term, came up with the infarct, and it has been entered. So exactly the same process that we have already done. Our parameter 10 is dealing with the functional properties. So we'll have a look at those fields now.
Okay. Find the tab.
Now these are the properties that relate to functioning, and the relationship here is with the ICF classification. You will see that we have checkboxes. There is the ability to find a term. there is also the ability to add terms. So it depends on what you need, what is listed in your content model. So are there any functioning properties that need to be applied to the infarction, myocardial
Yes.
infarction?
Regarding mobility, actually.
Okay.
Standing, walking, climbing, carrying.
Right, so you can tick those off as they're appropriate.
Climbing and carrying.
This will be reviewed by the ICF experts, but extremely easy for you to complete. As long as you have the information within your content model, easy tick box. Our next parameter is the specific condition properties. So we might just have a quick look at this one. Now, these are where the conditions occur in certain situations. Now, you will see that the parameter 11 is our specific condition properties. So here we will capture where there is a condition that is specific to a sex, where there is a condition that is specific to mothers, so these are the life cycle things, and also where it's specific to children. So in the case of the myocardial infarction, do any of these specific condition properties?
No, none would be applicable.
None would be applicable. So you will see that the iCAT will actually default to not applicable.
Okay.
If you need to change it, it's a simple click on the appropriate buttons. So parameter 12 was the one to deal with treatment. At the moment, this is under construction while we're making this video, and what we will be getting you to put in are any treatments that are very specific to the myocardial infarction that come from the definition. Now, did you have any treatments that might have been applicable?
No.
Currently not in this content model, so we don't need to worry about it at this stage. Our last parameter is number 13, and this is the one that deals with the diagnostic criteria. So we have a tab for diagnostic criteria. We've opened this tab and we have a field purely for diagnostic criteria. It's a free text field, so it's a case of clicking on your add new value and either typing or copying paste into this field whatever criteria you have. So do you have a criteria that we can enter into this field?
Yes, for myocardial infarction, typical rise and a gradual fall of troponin. So.
Perfect. So you can type that in here.
Okay.
So it's ready to go for you. Okay, and once you've entered the information, remember to click outside the box, and so now your work will be saved. Okay, so we've just worked our way through the entering of information into the content model on the iCAT. You will have seen that there are predominantly two ways of doing it. You may enter free text or copy and paste into a particular field, or you may be accessing the buyer portals, so by using the button for Find New Term. So it's actually very simple, and as long as you have your content model information, once it's in iCAT, the work's done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and we hope that you have found this video helpful while completing your proposals in the iCAT platform. Now remember, you will not need to complete every content model parameter for every proposal you make, only those which specifically apply. If you need further assistance or have additional questions, contact WHO staff.